Hello again. Now, the Information Regulator says the South African music industry lacks transparency and accountability. It's ruled in favor of a music rights holder who wanted access to records of their royalties. The regulator ruled that anyone is entitled to information if it is necessary for the protection of their rights. Some artists have been complaining now for quite some time that they are owed outstanding royalties for their work. For more on this, we're joined by the Information Regulators, Ntsumbedzeni, Nemasisi. Mr. Nemasisi, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Thank you very much for your time. Just give us some of the highlights about this case. I would guess because you're talking about music industry's royalties, it will involve Samro.
Definitely, it involved. Good afternoon, Braden and the viewers. Thank you so much for inviting us. It involved several collecting societies. Samro is part of them, but obviously our investigation was focusing on one collecting society. And then these are the collecting society which goes to SABC, your multi-choice, collect money that they play music video, and then they have to pay those monies to the musicians. And most of them are complaining. We had a public hearing, and most of them are complaining that they are not receiving any royalties. And you know, Braden, that majority of South African musicians are actually passing away without any money, even those that you know that they should be millionaires, but they die poor. And this is the reason why the Information Regulator, we conducted this investigation through the public hearing to ensure that we encourage the element of accountability, responsive governance as well in the music industry. But the most important thing, Braden, is the transparency in the music industry.
Yeah. So you said you focus on one collecting society, or did you expand your investigation?
What we did, Braden, is that when we receive a complaint from one of the very known producer, maybe I can just give you a brief background of him. He indicated to us that he produced over 20, he received over 20 summer awards, and also one of the artists that he has is like, for example, Lundi, Shi, Nomtek Kala, Sichaba, Boomshag, and many other artists. And he said they have not been receiving royalties. Then what we then check, we conducted researchers who conducted investigation, but the complaint was mainly against Risa Visual Audio, which we call them REF. It's one of the collecting society. And when we then realized that this is an issue that is spread across the whole industry, we opened up and we invited different stakeholders. SABC CEO was there as well, different musicians and different stakeholders came and give us evidence about the challenges in the music industry. And that's where we then said we expand, although our investigation focused on the complaint, where it's one collecting society, those other people who came to the public hearing and give us evidence, they give evidence that span across other collecting societies. And so what we're going to do, we've issued one report, which has now been referred to the Enforcement Committee, but we're going to issue what we call an observation report. This is the report where we're going to highlight the observation that we've identified in the music industry. And this observation relates then to the lack of accountability, the issue of lack of transparency, which obviously resulted in the report that we've issued, and the issue of effective governance in the music industry. So money flow from the broadcasters, but it doesn't flow to the musicians. That's the evidence that we've received. So that observation report, which is the second part of the report that we're going to issue, will deal mainly with those aspects where we'll go into detail on those aspects of transparency, accountability, lack of good governance in the music industry. And we believe after this, Braden, the music industry should change for better, and musicians should be able to receive their royalties, because this is a legislated industry. There is a Copyright Act that if you produce a music and the music is being played on national television, you should receive royalties, but majority of musicians are not receiving those royalties.
So will your next report then enable the payment of those royalties, even backdated? You mentioned some names just now of some of the artists and that one producer was representing. Is it the expectation, therefore, that they will be compensated?
We believe so. Let me give you a little bit of background. So the complainant, who's a music producer, said to us he has not been receiving his royalties, but he has won so many awards, so many albums he produced, and he knows that they're being played on national television, different television, but he's not receiving any money. So our investigation has found that indeed the reason for refusal of access, because he wanted the list of music videos that has been played so that he can determine how much was supposed to have been paid him, which he's never received. So our finding was that, which is a preliminary finding because we have referred that to the enforcement committee. Our finding was that those records must be released so that the music producer can be able to take action and recover the money that he's supposed to. So we're recommending to the enforcement committee. We're saying, enforcement committee, these are our preliminary findings that there is no sufficient grounds of refusing access to the records, which records will enable this producer to be able to receive the royalties which he is entitled to in terms of the law. And we're saying, we're recommending to the enforcement committee, which is the committee of the regulator, to say, issue the directive against this collecting society, direct them to disclose those records so that this music producer can be able to determine how much was supposed to have been paid to them and be able to claim those money and take action to claim those monies. But the second part of the report that we're going to issue as well is intended to assist the whole industry now, to say, even those collective society whom we have not received a complaint against them, they should know that in South Africa, we've got the law. It's started from the Constitution, where it gives the right of access to information to everyone, as long as that information is necessary for them to exercise their rights. So those two reports, they will actually assist the whole industry to be able to understand that access to information is not it's actually a right, which is a constitutional right, which has to be enjoyed by everyone. And you cannot just willy-nilly refuse access to the records without any grounds or sufficient grounds of why access should not be granted.
Yeah, and hence you as a regulator, you've ruled in favor of the music rights holder who complained, who wanted access to records of their royalties. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Ntsumbedzeni Nemasisi, he's from the Information Regulator.